Welcome back, and we've got take two. Welcome back, and we've got the Mary Hill team here now for your presentation. We've read the evidence, the submission, thank you. Thank you for the summaries as well. And I'll just check too, are both the microphones on? Otherwise you might need, Ms. Justice, just to hit the push.
The green light's on this one.
Perfect. Lovely. Just that way we get it all recorded.
Yeah.
And if you've been unlucky enough and unfortunate enough to watch the live stream, people listen to it, so that's good. So over to both of you. As I said, we've read everything. We've got your summaries and we're in your hands as to how you would like to use the time with us. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name's Meg Justice. I'm a planning consultant. This is Christian Stalker, who's my client and a reasonably significant landowner in the variation site. Yep. Just to confirm, you've read our summaries, which came through. Oh, that's hugely efficient.
Correct.
So we'll start off with Mr. Stalker, where the intention was to read through this summary.
Perfect.
If you think that's
Mr.
helpful.
Stalker's nice and short summary, so that's absolutely fine.
Okay, I'll hand you over.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and well done for the last couple of weeks. I've listened in and sort of watched some of the recordings. Been a lot of content. Yeah. I guess I really wanted to start off just saying I've lived here for nearly 40 years, off and on. The times that I've lived here have been in Ladies Mile. I've seen massive change over that period. In Ladies Mile and in the basin. I mean, when we first shifted here, there wasn't even a supermarket. We had to go to Alexandra, for example. There's hospitals. What else? There's an international airport. There's the ski fields have become ski resorts. There's world-class mountain bike tracks. There's brand new schools now. And these are all the reasons that people are able to live here and people continue to want to move here. The other thing is, I had the privilege of being part of the development of Shotover Country and seeing that community grow. And we actually live in there. It's a great community. And these are some of the reasons that I support the TPLM. We've seen this growth and it enables people to live here. I'm encouraged by the outcomes of the expert conferencing so far. I think it's been very productive. I thank the economic experts for considering the commercial storage activity. In my view, I think it's going to be of significant support in making the master plan happen. I thank the experts for recognising the widespread concerns from several of the submitters regarding the high density. In particular the minimas. I continue to support the establishment of reservoirs on our land. We worked with Council back in 2019 when the HIF business case was being put together, and there's some diagrams in my chief evidence, and Ms. Procedure's evidence also shows a preferred location, which is again on our land, and we support that. I continue to raise this. I think we need to be smart around dual purpose reserves. Having stormwater and reserves separate just doesn't make sense to me. It's not a good use of land, particularly when we're trying to achieve the densities that are sought. We'll end up consuming land for stormwater and parks, as opposed to having a dual purpose. Encourage developer and council participation in a sort of stormwater guideline or stormwater management guideline that's created. The other thing is there still remain questions around that amenity access area. It's a big piece of land. We've obviously talked a lot about reducing the speed limit from a high speed zone to a low speed zone. That's going to have an influence, on the fundamental reason for that amenity access area. And also who owns it, who's going to develop it, is there compensation? So I think that absolutely needs some more thought. And I guess, yeah, look, in summary, we've been actively pursuing the delivery of houses since 2016. We've applied for 2 SHAs, and we've also had a successful fast-track application referred. And it's our intention to continue to make housing come to life on Ladies Mile. So, we've got plans ready to expand that community that's already started there with Lake Hayes, with Cora Park, Shotover Country, Bridesdale, Threepwood. There's a significant number of developments that have occurred. And yeah, look, thanks for your consideration of our concerns today and the team. We've seen them flow through.
Thank you very much. Now, questions for Mr. Stalker? From Judith? No? Moani?
I think it was the language you used, which you said where you're currently living is a great place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering whether you took account of State Highway 6 into that assumption of what a great place it is to live.
By that, excuse me.
Take it
I
over
assume,
you want.
I assume you're talking about the traffic and the congestion at certain points of the day. Yep. Hey, look, you can see it. I drive in it, and it's at certain points of the day. Right? It's in the morning, in the afternoon, and it's related to people getting into town for work and for people getting to high school. Both ways. And I think it's evident globally that frustration, forces innovation, which then forces change. You'll see it in other countries where they have multiple different choices for getting from A to B. We've only recently had public buses, which is great. It's fascinating that it's only been a couple of years that we've had them, it will change, but you've got to force the change through, and I think it's through frustration.
Probably a follow-up then is, should for some reason all the provisions that are put in place to ensure mode shift and use of public transport in high schools and commercial sectors make the travel time increase? We've had an indication from some of the submitters that would be enough to have them move out of the Lake Hayes or other communities. What's your feeling on that? I don't know whether you've lived anywhere else or those sort of things, and how you compare the traffic issues that we have in that area.
Yeah, I mean, moving out's quite a subjective opinion based on traffic, so it's sort of hard to comment. I mean, there's traffic problems everywhere. I mean, I've been to Manila, I've been to various places and lived various places, and I guess it's all about the relevance of where you live and what your previous experience has been.
No, thanks very much. Thanks.
Thanks, Wani. Gillian?
I have no questions for you, but I do thank you for laying that out nice and clearly, so it's obvious what you support and some of the feedback you have on other matters, so thank you.
Ian?
No questions, thank you.
Just a couple from me, and they relate to the developments you've done, etc., and also what is proposed. So, been involved in Shotover, living there, etc., with Lake Hayes. We've been told a lot about a lack of community facilities in terms of, there's obviously Kaurau shopping centre, well, the little centre with the big medical centre, but that the commercial centre within the proposed variation area will provide commercial community services, a supermarket, etc., to the catchment. And do you consider that that's needed, a much needed sort of facility within the Shotover Lake Hayes catchment?
The
commercial sort of supermarket type.
Within Shotover or the TPLM?
No, within the TPLM.
Yes, yeah, I do.
And within the TPLM too, there's the proposal for schools and potentially a Catholic school as well, so possibly 3.
That's right.
Do you see that as a potential benefit for the community you live in, shot over estate vacays as well?
Oh, look, I think the high school is much needed in the TPLM zone, absolutely.
And you've been involved with a primary school within Shotover. There's
That's
the
correct.
primary school there. One of the issues, which you'll know better than us, though we're pretty familiar with it, is obviously that's Ministry of Education. You mentioned that you've talked to Ministry of Education, etc. They've made a submission. But in your experience, what level of development needed to occur before the Ministry of Education sort of engaged on delivering the school? Did it happen from day one, or did it happen a bit further down the process? Because lots of what we've been discussing is chicken and egg.
Yeah.
If you don't develop, the schools don't come, but if the schools won't come if you don't develop.
Yeah. I mean, it was a different situation. I think when we established the primary school at Shotover Country, all of Shotover Country hadn't been built. Now you've got a massive amount of houses that are established with families feeding into that single primary school. So that's I think it's one of the biggest primary schools in the country now, at a pupillage of around 900. When it started, and in fact, I think when it started there was 72 children at that school when it started.
I taught there.
Which would have been maybe 2016, 17, somewhere around there. Sorry, don't quote me on that, but I think Shotover Country started about 2013, so it was probably 5 years ago when the primary school started.
And that's just years 1 to
Right through till they go to
8.
high school, 8, that's correct.
1 to 8.
Yep.
So pretty much it took sort of 3 years or so for that particular primary school to go in from the start of the...
That's approximately, yeah. And as I said, it's gone from a pupillage of 70 odd through to 900 now in a number of years.
Then the other part is the sort of timing of the development, and obviously this is all within TPLM. There's numerous different landowners who'll all go at different times, etc. What sort of, and if it's commercial sensitive, just don't answer it, that's fine, but what sort of timeframes are you looking at for the development of your area? Some people are saying 10 years, some are saying we're ready to go now. Which it will be my next question about the different applications you've got under fast track. But just generally, what sort of time frame are you looking for? Short term, medium term, or longer term? Or combo?
Yeah, it's a big chunk of land, okay, so we've got 12 hectares. So the different components will go at different times. It is commercially sensitive.
Yep.
But look, we're ready to go. And we will get on with it. We want to apply for a consent, and obviously we're looking for your support to enable us to do that. But we are ready to go, and like I said, this will be in effect our fourth revision of looking to develop and build houses on Ladies Mile.
And we've heard differing views about demand and need for housing in Queenstown. Some people, the experts, are typically telling us demand's very high, and we need to get on and do things like TPLM. Others are saying we need to stop growth or limit growth, control growth, and just manage things differently. But in your 40 plus years here, being a developer, etc., how the growth demand, and you've talked about the change since you came here, but that demand's insatiable. It's just growing in affordability sort of sense as well. Just any comments on that?
Look, Shotover Country was completed, is the word I want, faster than we ever imagined. Excuse me, hay fever's absolutely destroying my voice.
It's okay.
And our projections were we're wildly off with shot over country. It happened a lot faster than we thought, and there's no reason for me to think otherwise now.
And just finally with the density side of it, and we'll talk no doubt with Ms Justice about that too, but the sort of 40 DPH level, obviously you've got a combo of medium density and high density, etc. The medium density is presently proposed at 40 as well, but just you've expressed and set out the rationale for the 40, but currently it's 50, and would you see that 50 as being potentially too optimistic, and having then for you, would it be a time implication of when you may develop?
I'd like to see it less, yeah.
Less than 50?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's from a pure development, get on and do it point of view, or a more strategic?
And from a development point of view, from a commercial point of view, you know, I think it was Cam Wallace, you know, was struggling to find examples over 38 dwellings a hectare in the country in a similar location. You know, I've listened to some of the economists speak, you know, around the densities, and you know, they're smarter than me at it, and they're echoing, you know, the sentiment around some of these densities sort being a challenge.
Yep. And if the high density was 40, would you see the medium density staying at 42, in effect one zone?
Yep, I do.
Yep. So you're comfortable with the medium at that 40 level?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr Stalker. I've got no more questions. Nothing further from the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms Justice.
Okay, I was intending to read through the summary, but...
You're welcome if you want to start at paragraph 7.
Okay, sure.
Because the first part's the sort of introduction type part. Feel free and you can read through.
Okay, thank you. So paragraph 7 is the density minima section of my summary, and just for clarification, it's not really a summary so much as an update.
Yes.
Because things have moved on. So Mary Hill's submission sought changes to the minimum density requirements prescribed for both the high density res and the medium density res precinct, and their concerns were that the densities were not proven by demand by the community, meaning developers may be unwilling to develop their land, and it would not enable a lower density development at the early stages of development of the zone, which is expected to be required just to get some momentum going for the zone. Now, I understand, and you would have heard from many people so far, that one of the key drivers for the density is to promulgate a mode shift in transportation choices. And on the basis of Mr Shields' evidence, there is a range of density that's expected to result in that shift, which I understand to be between 40 to 60 units per hectare. And just listening to Mr Parlane, I think it was 2 days ago, he was in agreement with that, and the expert witnesses were through their joint witness statement as well. So based on that evidence, and the evidence of Ms Carlton, which I found really useful, just setting out the commercial viability of higher density developments, I do consider that I do support the amendment sought by Ms Hove, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name, Hoogjeven? Yeah, evidence which seeks the minimum be changed to 40 units per hectare. And I just note that largely aligns with the relief that was originally sought in Mary Hill's submission. I've also reviewed the version of Rule 49.516, which was updated last week by Mr Brown, and acknowledge that the additional clause B is intended to enable a mechanism to provide some lower density development on an averaging type basis. And I do consider that is quite a useful addition if the minimum density was to be retained at the 50, but if it was to be the 40, I don't think there's probably a need for that averaging rule. And finally on the density matter, I just remain of the view that a non-complying activity status for an activity that's permitted but doesn't achieve one of the development standards should be discretionary rather than non-complying. I have a principled approach to non-complying, that it should be reserved for activities for land use activities that are not foreseen in a zone, rather than applying to activities that are foreseen but don't meet a standard. And there's a bit more explanation around the reasoning for my positions in my evidence of chief. I've obviously left that out of this summary. So turning to the prescription of the provisions in the structure plan, Mr Brown, in the 8th of December version of the provisions, has recommended changes that integrate some additional flexibility into the structure plan. And these suggested changes include identifying some items on the structure plan with an asterisk to which development must be generally consistent with, so allowing a little bit more flexibility around that. And he's recommended a corresponding amendment to Policy 49211 and Rule 49515D. I just noted this morning he's also recommended a corresponding amendment to the standard that applies to the open space precinct, so I support that as part of that bundle as well. And then at paragraph 32 of my evidence in chief, I outlined some other changes that I thought were necessary to reduce the instances where activities statuses would default to non-complying. And I do remain of the view that these changes will assist in reducing barriers to development within the zone by simply reducing the occurrence of resource consent applications for non-complying activities, which is the second most onerous activity status, below prohibited. Storage facilities, as you would have seen, the Economist Joint Witness Statement and the Planning Joint Witness Statement and the revised provisions provided by Mr Brown do include support for a rule that provides for a commercial storage facility within an allocated area on the structure plan as a controlled activity. And just to confirm, I agree with the proposed rule that's been put forward by Mr Brown. And I've got the reference here, which has got an XX beside it still. No doubt that'll get updated. And I've just included, just for your information, the snip from the updated structure plan, which shows where that commercial storage activity is proposed. And just to describe why that particular site was considered appropriate, it is right at the base of Slope Hill, so probably not the greatest area for residential, to be quite shaded, and views may be blocked at least at ground level by other development. So turning to the provision of infrastructure, Mary Hill's land is expected to be heavily encumbered by shared assets, with the majority of the community park on its land, along with a row of protected trees, the 25-metre no-build/amenity area, which is parallel to the state highway, and land required for roading and intersection upgrades, as well as the possible stormwater management area, which has been identified, a suitable location at least, has been identified along the toe of Slope Hill and adjacent to the collector road. The community park is located within an area that is expected to be suitable for stormwater management facilities, being at the base of Slope Hill. Enabling reserve land that is required for community assets such as recreational parks to have a dual purpose of stormwater management when vested as reserve will enable the efficient use of land within the zone. So I'm seeking confirmation from Council's reserves officers that whether or not there are in fact barriers, legal or otherwise, to having dual purpose reserves, and subsequently, if there are no legal or other barriers, that would be encouraged within this variation site, because I think that would greatly assist with the efficient development of the land. And just by way of a bit of background, I've been in several consent applications where it's been proposed to the suggestion that land could be have a dual purpose of recreation and stormwater function has been suggested. It's never been supported by the council. I've never seen any sort of rationale or reasons for that, so I am just genuinely interested whether or not that's a viable proposition, or if any creative solutions can be put in place that just simply applies to this zone that would enable such an outcome.
While we're on that one, we've heard from Ms. Galavasi in terms of parks and recreation. And certainly her view was clear they should be separate, they've got separate functions, but they may be able to be linked, as in different types of walkways and things could be put through with swales. So there's a linkage, but then a different use and different role was how I took her evidence to be. So you may wish to talk to the council further, or if you haven't already read that in the attached different documents, and it may assist.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard in the past.
Yeah, so
They
it's
do, like,
entirely
keep them-
consistent with what we've been told as well.
Yeah. And I'm, what,
Can I did listen to Ms Galavanzi's summary, but was there actually a justification, I think, for why they need to be separate?
Have a read of her evidence,
Yeah.
etc., and it could be, I mean, if the variation goes ahead, there's going to be a lot of discussions, etc., but I'm sure you're already having those discussions, and that might be a discussion you want to have with the council for more clarity.
yeah, I appreciate it's probably outside of the ambit for this process. It's just something that I've never had a clear answer on in 20 odd years. And I think it's a shame, really, because there could be a lot more efficient use of land.
Yep.
If a change was
Have a read of her evidence, and that may assist, may not, but may assist you.
Okay. And then potentially finally, as you heard from Mr Stalker, quite a large portion of the land front State Highway 6, so it is encumbered by the 25 metre wide building restriction area, which is shown on the zone plan, which is then overlaid with the major active travel route requirements and a 20 metre wide amenity access area, which is on the structure plan. So how this land will be treated at the time of subdivision does appear to be uncertain still, and I may have missed some discussion about this last week. I haven't listened to all of the transcripts. But my assumption is that the entire strip would be vested with council as reserve, and that development contributions would be allocated to the landowner in accordance with the contributions policy. But some certainty on this matter would be greatly beneficial to the developers as they finalise their plans.
Just on that one, that has been, and you may well get a question on it, a point of discussion with many parties. The other point of discussion that I'm sure you need to be aware of is there's discussion about making the BRA smaller, potentially, given the change in speed environment on State Highway 6.
Yeah.
That is potentially there, the signalisation of the intersections and making it feel a more urban environment. There's been discussion about 10 metre setbacks, so
Right.
we'll have to see where that all lands, but there's been a lot of talk over the last 2 weeks about the setback.
Right. And any discussion about how it would be treated in terms of when it's vested?
There's been questions asked,
Right.
but yes, beyond that, there's assumptions.
Hence my own. And then finally, I agree with Mr Giddens' summary statement, which he presented on the 11th of, on Monday this week, which just highlighted the fact that some provision for temporary or interim stormwater management devices, solutions, infrastructure needs to be expressly provided for within the provisions that apply to the northern side of State Highway 6. And the reason this was discussed in the joint witness statement for the planners, the reasons for that is that obviously developers will be going forward at different times with their development, so the entire integrated stormwater system may not be able to be implemented all in accordance with the first development that gets off the ground. So some provision for short-term soakage ponds or swales or pipes, if that was expressly included in the provisions, that would greatly assist with any confusion at the consent processing time.
There's a lot of thought going on about that one as well, so it would be worthy of discussions with the council team too. So thank you very much. Questions from the panel? Judith?
None from me, thank you. I think your submissions have been very clear.
Thank you.
No,
What?
Mayor Phil, thanks very much.
Gillian? Cool. Ian?
Look, I don't have a question for you, but Councillor, in your reply, can you please address the question of parks and the separation of local government powers from resource management powers, and when decisions get made and by who, and the extent to which we might be attracted to the idea, do we even have the power to actually direct anything? I don't know. It's not clear from anything I've read or the evidence, one way or the other. That's all.
Thank you.
That's very straightforward. I'll just check with my ones. You mention flexibility quite a bit, and there's the Kingston Village SPZ or something.
Yes.
Sorry, showing my complete ignorance of, but the provisions and where we now find ourselves at, and this is your sort of prescription nature. Do you think with the way it's evolved through the hearing and with the latest version, we've got now the right sort of level of prescriptiveness versus flexibility? Or are you still in the position where there needs to be some more flexibility on certain matters?
I think that there could be more flexibility, and it probably just comes down to removing that non-complying activity status where the permitted activities don't achieve a standard. And my rationale for that is because it just presents an additional barrier. And some of the, it is relatively prescriptive, there's no doubt about it. Some things in the structure plan may not be able to be achieved for reasons outside of everybody's control. The outcome may still be very much in line with what the structure plan is overall seeking. So in those instances, I think a discretionary activity status just gives that element of flexibility, gives a direction to the council officer processing the resource consent that actually the outcomes will be the same. Please process the resource consent in a pragmatic manner. And the same would go, I think, for the density provisions as well, because they are a big jump from what we know as a community. It is going to take some time for communities, landowners, purchasers to get on board with the much higher density that's been prescribed in this. If it is looking a bit shaky or things are taking a bit longer to get off the ground, then definitely having a discretionary activity status for a slightly lower density would enable a bit more flexibility and make it a bit more viable.
Sorry, I'm just checking. I use paper, everyone else. I've got things on the screen, but I write my questions on
I'm very
the
much
paper
as
version,
well.
so I'll just check that I haven't missed any. No, been through that. Reserves. No further questions from me. So, just one question actually before you go, and it's back to Mr. Stalker. And I said I'd ask, and then I forgot. The fast track. Sorry, there's so many different processes. The fast track process. So you've been accepted into the fast track. Mm-hmm. Is that to your site located in the medium density zone, or is it
The high density,
the high density part?
that's correct.
And so where is that? It's you haven't progressed it yet, though?
Not yet, no. We'd prefer to go through this process. That's our current preference.
So it's just sort of on pause.
That's correct.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. No additional questions from the panel? No? Lovely. Thank you very much for your submission. Mm-hmm. And as I alluded to, we've heard a lot of very similar matters, and we've had a lot of discussion on similar matters. So there is a theme coming through from what we're hearing, and so we've asked a lot of questions already earlier in the hearing. So thank you very much for your time, and have a lovely afternoon out in that sunshine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stunning day.
Thank you very much. Now, the Airways Corp. Ms. Sung. Thank you. Now, we've read your legal subs, and it seems to be a good news story. Just want to quickly check what I didn't do when I read them last night was just check that the rule 29.5.24.1 has been changed.
Yes, that's correct.
And I take it you're happy with that wording and you want to make sure it stays the same.
That's correct.
Beyond that, I thought it was pretty short and to the point, but
Yes.
is there anything else you'd like to elaborate on?
No, I don't propose to reading to my legal submissions either.
Perfect.
Just happy
Just
to take
if
any
there's questions.
questions. Yeah.
Now, are there any questions from Ms. Singh from the panel? No? No, thank you very much, and with the council team for working through that directly.
Yeah.
In that way, it's made it, if we're minded to recommend approval, it's
Yeah.
all written for us, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
easy for everyone.
And thanks for coming along just to confirm what you want
Yeah.
and to make sure it's very front and centre, it's all agreed and resolved, because it is a significant navigation aid
Yeah.
that we need to ensure the protection of in terms of the access.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, to the council team, just thinking to the degree there might be discussion, it might be easiest if you just sit around with, or grab a mic and take it to you. Whichever's easier. Now, in terms of next steps, over to you as to what thinking you've done, what thoughts you've got. I'd be keen to the degree you've done timing back from our dates, just to, not now, but just to be provided through the hearing administrator, just to sort of your take on the timetable, and I can make sure it aligns with timing I do, so we hit all of the relevant
Yes.
dates.
And Ms Woods will probably be the best person to talk to exact timing, but I think in terms of the next step and that we're working to is the date by which we need to close the hearing for
Yes.
you to have sufficient time to meet the remaining steps, and our calculation of that date is the 2nd of February. What we were proposing is working back from that date, being a date that the hearing needs to be closed, that we obviously want to give you some time to read our reply in case there are any further questions. And with that in mind, what our current thinking is that we would aim to file a reply by the 26th of January.
Perfect, thank you. That gives us a clear week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, obviously, with the holidays and things, there may be the outside chance that we may come to you and say, can we have until the 29th?
Yep.
But we are trying to avoid that. It's anniversary weekend and we'd like to just get it to you. But I think either the 26th
Have us
or
reading, yes.
the 29th
Yep.
then gives that week.
And it may be, if it gets to that, it comes in parts, because we don't need to, yes, we need the overall package, but equally we can get reading and
Yes,
thinking.
and actually in that regard, I was thinking about the fact we've obviously going to need some of our experts to comment on some things, but Mr. Brown needs time also,
yes.
so potentially almost splitting those two packages to you might be also helpful, both at our end but yours, to get some things.
It just means
reading.
we have longer to read part of it and to ponder it and think about it.
Correct.
And then you can keep working on the other part.
Yeah,
Might make it a bit more streamlined.
yeah.
The only thing I'd add to that is the one thing we're liaising with our experts about is the whole amenity access area treatment. Where, sorry, the council team are, getting their final position as a package to send to the submitters with the intention of whether that is to then lead on to further conferencing as you had encouraged, or whether it's just a feedback, and that might be timing next week and that, say, first week back in January. But we are obviously alive to that issue and are working towards getting you a package of further clarity on what that will involve.
Thank you. And yes, again, whether it's conferencing or feedback, it's just pragmatic in the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
and over the holiday period.
Yeah.
It's do your best rather than
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
try and...
our thinking at the moment is if we put the package together for the parties to then comment on, at least you can have their comments back as well.
Yep.
Or they may agree.
Yep. That sounds great, thank you. It sounds very good.
So on that basis, if you're happy, we'll say the 26th, but it may be that we try and get some bits through to you earlier, and we may seek leave for a slight indulgence till the 29th if we need it, depending on how things are tracking.
Yep. Just checking anything on those timings from the panel. But yes, the sort of drip-fed but not overly drip-fed
Yeah.
one would be good.
Okay.
To the degree that works with the timing. And it might be because Mr. Brown's going to have to go through everything, you're going to have to go through it, it might actually line up, but
Yeah,
if it doesn't, that's great.
we'll have to wait and see. And then obviously we'll be in your hands, and that week if you have questions that you have, whether that's in writing or you needed to reconvene, will be in your hands in that regard.
Thank you. Yes, we'll organise in that week to have a meeting with the panel and go through that and to see whether we need to quickly meet up. We'll actually talk this afternoon about dates and just keeping some things done. Hopefully we won't need to come back in person.
No, hopefully not.
It
but-
can just be done via questions.
Yeah. Very good.
Lovely.
I think that was all from our perspective, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you will hear from us in due course.
Thank you. Just making sure all the questions we've asked in terms of the homework is all clear. There's no
We've
sort
got a
of
list.
uncertainty, or you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm not entirely sure about this and this. If there's any sort of points of clarity that might assist, I'm looking at Mr. Brown, but for all of you, this could just be a chance to just mention it, and we could see if we could help with greater clarity. Equally, you could write through council, the hearing administrator,
Yeah.
if, as you're going through, a query comes up.
Yeah, well, I think we're clear at the moment, but we may need to take you up on that, your last offer just then, just in case. We'll see how we go.
Yep. Wonderful. Now, do any of the members of the panel have any additional questions for the council to think during their reply? Anything that hasn't been raised? Ian, you're all good?
I'll ask
Oh,
one. I'll ask one minor thing. The Dobbs that we heard from this morning. If we were minded and felt there was no limitation to include that site, question of what zone in the council's view would be the best fit, it would possibly be the only bit of the medium density area on the entire southern side. That might itself not make sense, all things considered. But whatever that is, appreciating the council has the view that it should be excluded, understanding Plan B would be good.
Yeah.
You're all good, Judith?
Sorry, I just had
Yes.
one further thing.
Go for it.
There was two further traffic matters that were circulated this week. Mr. Shields and Mr. Smith are currently liaising on that. Would that, if that is available before Christmas, would that be your preference to send that through before and not wait for the reply? Okay.
Yes, please, they're straightforward questions.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And I fear we've left you with a busy week, especially next week. But the last few weeks have probably been quite busy as well. So thank you very much for the time, energy, effort. No doubt lots of conversations with experts and submitters. And the way you've managed it, the way it's run with the council team and things has been great. Thank you. So thank you very much for that, and have a wonderful, albeit brief, I suspect, Christmas break.
Thank you.
So we'll adjourn now, and we'll wait for the written reply, and then we'll decide. It will probably be on to Feb that we will close the hearing, but we'll adjourn for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry,
That,
Hawani.
I directly whakapapa to here through Kati Hawea, and we opened the hearing with a karakia. It's takeable and appropriate that we close it with a karakia. Not that our work is actually going to finish, but it's
We
good to
carry
see
on.
the end of this component of it done and dusted. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te atawai tātou ariki, e hukaraiti, me te aroha, me te atoa, me te whiwhi nā taitanga, e te wāra o tapu, aki aki, amene.
Amen. Kia ora.
Now we're on regular.